Hey, everybody, this is Dr. Mike, and welcome to The Nugget. Once again, I want to thank you for allowing me to come and share with you on your lunch hour as we hope to encourage you, hope to inspire you to fulfill the rest of your day as we go on this journey to discover purpose and destiny. And that's what it's all about. And once again, welcome to The Nugget. Hey, listen, I want to share something with you this morning. I was talking with I went over my sister's house yesterday, and she gave me this picture. Make it quick so you don't uh, hard recognize who it is. But this is a picture of me when I was about 8 or 10 years old. I can't remember the exact age and everything. But in this picture, it made me remember something that my grandmother used to say about me all the time, even to the point of becoming an adult. And we would talk and we would tease her, and I'd be in front of my sisters and my brothers and stuff like that. And she would, and I would, we would say to her, and they would say, "Oh, that Michael, he is a good child." And it's something that she repeated all the time, no matter where she was, even up to the point of her passing a few years ago. She would always say, "Man, that Michael, he's a good child." And I had no clue as to what she was talking about, none at all. And so it also made me remember a conversation she had with one of her friends uh, one day that they were sitting in the room talking, and I think her name is Miss McDaniel. I may not be correct in that, but I just happened to just walk through the living room, going outside, and I spoke and everything, and she said, "Yeah, that Michael, he's a goodly child," and the friend, once again, I think it was Miss McDaniel, was say, "Yeah, that boy gonna be a preacher one day." And I'm thinking to myself, a preacher? When in the world she talking about going to be a preacher one day? And sometimes we don't recognize or know that there's a call on our life. A lot of times we don't know and recognize. Even as a child, I didn't recognize it. Even as an adult, I didn't recognize it, that there was a call upon my life. And the call just didn't happen. The call was placed on me from birth. And so I want to say to each and every one of you today that no matter what your age is right now, there is a call that has been placed on your life from birth to accomplish something for the kingdom of God. I don't know what it may be, where it may be at, or what you may be doing, but there is a call that God has placed upon your life, and God is looking for you to fulfill that call, and that call will lead you to purpose and destiny. And so, just as I didn't understand what my grandmother was saying about me, but I did it make start. I start to remember, starting to think of things, and I remember even as a young child, around 10, 12 years old, man, I used to love Sunday school. I couldn't, listen, most people hated church and Sunday school, but I love Sunday school. Mr. Denson was my Sunday school teacher, and I remember him to this day, man, and I love Sunday school. I didn't care too much for church now, but Sunday school I love. And I just couldn't wait to go to Sunday school, every Sunday. And so what was happening with me is that there was a call on my life, and my grandmother didn't understand it, but there was a call, or she did understand it, but I didn't understand it. There was a call, and that call has to be cultivated. And so that call brought me to that point of loving Sunday school, love the teaching of Sunday school. I love to be taught about God. I love to hear about God at a young age. I loved it and I loved it and I loved it. And so when I got to be a teenager, and when you get to be a teenager, you just begin to do teenage stuff, and young adults, you begin to do stuff. You just kind of forget all about church. You forget all about God. Forget all about the call. Forget all about those things. But even though I forgot about it, the call was still there. And so when we talk about a call, we talk about the call today. I'm going to share with you briefly. A call is a spiritual fervor or an expression of such fervor, or a call is to put in place. And so when you're called, that means God is looking to put you in place to do something for the kingdom of God. And so that kind of reminded me of the story of Joseph. And it's an old familiar story that we all have heard before. And so what we got to come to realize, we just got to stop looking at it as a story or a story book or something, but again to begin to let it allow it to soak into our lives and help us to begin to understand who we are, help us to see ourselves in these books or in these stories. You know, one of my favorite scriptures is First Corinthians chapter 2, verses 14. And it says this, but the natural man receiveth not the things of the Spirit of God, for they are foolishness unto him. Neither can he know them because they are spiritually discerned. And so basically what God is saying is that when you try to physically and naturally understand and to know God, you're not as spiritual. Listen, your call is not physical. Your call is first spiritual. And once you understand your call is spiritual, it will begin to manifest itself in the natural. And so that's what we have to be aware of. Many people are trying to do things physically and in the physical, and that's not part of the call in their life. That's why people may not be happy in church and may not be happy with what they're doing, may not be happy even with God, because they're trying to do it from a natural standpoint, do it from the point of, I was brought up in this, and this is what we did. But that is physical, natural. That's not spiritual. And so you have to know and understand, I don't care who you are in church. I don't care how long you've been in church. There's a call, and you have to begin to know what that call is and recognize that call. And so in the book of Genesis, chapter 37, just read with me for a little bit this morning, this afternoon. It's the story of Joseph's dream. In verse 30, chapter 37, verse 1 through 5, this is what it says. It says, so Jacob settled again in the land of Canaan, where his father had lived as a foreigner. For this is the account of Jacob and his family. When Joseph was 17 years old, remember that, 17 years old, he often tended his father's flock and worked for his half-brothers, the son of his father's wife, Zilpah and Zebah. But Joseph reported to his father some of the bad things his brothers were doing. Jacob loved Joseph more than any of his other children because Joseph had been born to him in his old age. So one day Jacob had a special gift made for Joseph, a beautiful robe. But his brothers hated Joseph because their father loved him more than the rest of them, and they couldn't say a kind word to him. One night, Joseph had a dream, and when he told his brothers about it, they hated him even more. And so, listen, we have to remember now, God now begins to deal with Joseph at 17 years old, and he gives him a dream. And so, sometime, as I said before, when I didn't understand what my grandmother meant by "you're a goodly child," it was a call. There was a call being placed upon my life. And so she may not have had a revelation of it, of what it was, but there was a call being placed upon my life. And so what we have to remember, so Joseph now has a dream, and he tells his brothers about this dream, and his brother hated him even the more because of the dream. Because the dream, he said to them, they were bowing down. His mother and his father, they were bowing down before him. And so Joseph didn't really understand the dream. And so he just brushed it off. And so sometime in life, when we fully don't understand the call in our life, we sort of brush it off because we have no understanding of it, of what it means. And we have no one to teach us what it means. And so you have to come to know and understand others may not recognize the call on your life. There are people that may be close to you that will not understand the call that God has placed upon your life. And here in Genesis chapter 37, once again, we're going to read verses 9 through 11, and we're reading out a New Living Translation of all of our scriptures. It says, soon Joseph had another dream, and again he told his brothers about it. Listen, I have had another dream, he said. The sun and moon and 11 stars bowed down low before me. This time he told the dream to his father as well as to his brothers. but his father scorned him. Who do you think you are? What kind of dreams, what kind of foolishness is this? That's not going to happen to you. You know, man, you just a bad child. I don't care. You just like your daddy or you just like your mama. They would say, you know, son, we're going to bow down to you. Who do you think you are? You know, and so it's done not intentionally, but because they don't have an understanding of the call that God has placed upon your life, they can only respond in the natural, as his father did. He says, well, what kind of dream is that? He asked. This is his father. Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come and bow to the ground before you? But while his brothers were jealous of Joseph, his father wondered what the dream meant. And so sometimes others may not recognize that there's a call on your life, and they may tease you about it. They may say things hurtful to you about it, to hurt you, to discourage you, to brush it off, and that you forget about it. But I want you to know this morning that there is a call upon your life that cannot be dismissed. And so just as Jacob begins to wonder, means to ponder over what this dream means. And so, as parents, we got to begin to wonder when our child, our children, our sons, and our daughters say something to us concerning God, about God, who God is. We have to begin to pray and ask God, God, what is it that's going on with my child? What is, so you can begin to help them to understand that there's a call on the life. And so you have to recognize as a parent, there could be a call upon your child's life. Well, not could be, but there is a call upon your child's life. And so we have to begin to consult God to find out what this call is. How do I handle this call? How do I guide my children? How do I help them along the way to the path of righteousness that leads them to God? And so many times in life, because parents are off doing their own things, acting like children sometimes, that they pay no attention to their child. They have no clue that there's a call upon their child's life, and they let the child go without understanding of what God is calling them to, or even who God is. And so it is like my grandson Cameron. Cameron has this thing now about him lately, is that God, it's about God. He has to see God. He has to go to church. You know, he asks me every week before even Sunday comes, hey, we going to church? Where are we going to church at? You know, he began to say, just church. And I say to him, and I know what he's going to say about certain churches. And I say to him, no, we're going to this church here. He says, oh, no, I don't want to go to that church. You know, ain't no fun in that church. And so I tell him another church. And so he suggests, oh, let's go to this church because this church is a fun church. Or let's go to this church because they feed you after church. And so what God is doing, I have to come to recognize is that, hey, there's a call upon this life. And I got to cultivate that call. Because listen, I didn't get the cultivating of the call because my parents didn't understand who God was calling me into. They were doing their own thing and they were in church. You know, and it's one thing to be in church and not know that there's a call upon the life of your child. And so they didn't know that. And it wasn't something that they willfully did. It's just that they didn't have understanding of the call that was on my life. And so I have to begin to talk to him, cultivate him, say, Cam, what's this about God? You know, and tell him things about God. And so I'm cultivating the call that's on his life, even though he's 5 years old right now. But guess what? The call on his life was there since the day he was born. And so God is dealing with him. And so now God is sharing with me what didn't happen with me, the sharing of the cultivating of the call. And so I have to cultivate that call upon his life. And so others may not see it on him, but God has shown it to me. And now I have to cultivate it. And so what I'm saying to you is others may not know, and others may not have come to recognize a call that was on your life when you was a child, when you were very young, but you knew there was something different about you. Listen, this is the time to pray. This is the time to say, God, I know that there's a call. Dr. Mike says that there's a call on my life. And because that call is on my life and I don't know what it is, Lord, I need you to help me. I need you to help me cultivate this call. I need you to help. I need you to put people around me to help me, to instruct me in this call, that I can accomplish everything, that I can begin to walk in purpose and destiny to fulfill your will in the earth for me. And so, once again, you must become, others may not recognize the call on your life, but that does not negate that you are called. You are called to do something great for the kingdom of God. And so, secondly, you must begin to recognize, I as a person must begin to recognize or come to know that God is taking me somewhere. God is taking me somewhere. And so, once again, this is the story of Joseph. So he tells his brothers to dream, and his brothers hate him. And so they take him. He goes out to meet them. They put him in a pit, and they were going to kill him. So they decide not to kill him. And so they sold him into slavery. And so as they sold him into slavery, once again, this is what happens to him. They go back and they tell the father Jacob that a wild beast have come and eaten Joseph, and verified we have his coat, but we couldn't find him. So he's been eaten by some wild animal. And so once again, you have to know when you're called, you have to know and recognize that God is taking you somewhere. And so this is Joseph in Genesis 39, verses 1 through 4. This is Joseph. When Joseph was taken to Egypt by the Ishmaelites, traders, he was purchased by Potiphar, an Egyptian officer. Potiphar was captain of the guards of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. Now, this is very important. Now, when there's a call on your life, you have to know this. The Lord was with Joseph. Even though he was sold into slavery, the Lord was with Joseph. So he succeeded in everything he did as he served in the home of his Egyptian master. And so it doesn't matter where God has placed you. It doesn't matter what kind of work you're doing. It doesn't matter if you're in the business market or or sales market. It doesn't matter if you maybe own your own business, because you have to begin to know, to understand, because there's a call upon your life. God will make you successful. You will succeed in that business that you're trying to start. You will succeed on that job that you're on, that others will begin to recognize how valuable you are to their business. And they're going to do everything to keep you there. So because of the call that's on your life, you recognize there's a call. You recognize there's a purpose, that I'm here. You recognize that I'm doing this not because of me, but God has placed me here. And you begin to say, God, show me what I must do here. Show me what my purpose is here. Because there's a call upon your life. And so once again, that call. And so he says to him in verse 3, and Potiphar noticed this and realized that the Lord was with Joseph, giving him success in everything he did. And so others around you will begin to recognize, man, there's something different. Man, I don't know what it is about him. I don't know what it is about her, but there is something different. There's something special about them. Listen, they have such favor with everybody. Is that everybody loves them. You know, they're doing what they do, and you're just successful at what you do. You're successful at what you're accomplishing in life. You're successful. Why? Because God has placed a call on your life, and you're doing what God has positioned you to do at that moment. And this, in verse 4 says this pleased Potiphar, or this pleased your boss, this pleased the other owners. So he soon made Joseph his personal attendant. He put him in charge of his entire household and everything he owned. That means he entrusted Joseph with everything. Because what? He knew that the Lord was with him. Why? Because there was a call upon his life to flourish. And he says, verse 5, from that day, Joseph was put in charge of his master's household and property. The Lord began to bless Potiphar's household for who? Joseph said, listen, the Lord will bless that job you're on for your sake, not for the business sake, not for the company's sake, but for your sake. Why? Because God has a call upon your life, and God wants you to stand out in the midst of everybody else. Why? Because of the call that's been placed on your life. And he says, listen to this, all his household affairs ran smoothly, and his crops and livestock flourished. Everything he had began to prosper because of the call that's on your life. Everything in that business will begin to prosper because of the call that's on your life. And this is what he says. He says, so Potiphar gave Joseph complete administrative responsibility over everything he owned. So he made Joseph the CEO of his company. Joseph, I know God is with you. God is doing this thing for you. Listen, I just don't want you to be a worker. I'm going to make you the CEO of my company. Everything runs through you. And that's why you're here. And that's because of the call that he has placed upon your life. And listen, and this is what he says. He says he didn't worry about anything except what kind of food to eat. Joseph was a very handsome and well-built young man. And so he just said, listen, Potiphar didn't worry about anything. He didn't worry about, he had Joseph in control because of the call on your life. They will put you in place in management because of who you are. And the business, once again, will flourish. The business that you may want to start will flourish. Why? Because of the call that's on your life. And so, once again, you have to remember as we bring this part to a close, listen, others may not recognize it, but there's a call on your life. God has placed a call on your life to do something great, to do something good, to do something for his will, to do something to accomplish his purpose. Listen, to take you into destiny. And so you just have to remember that. That is God's call upon your life. And so, secondly, you have to come to know and to recognize God is taking you somewhere. You're not just at that job just to be at that job. God is taking you somewhere. God is bringing an open door so he can bless the business for your sake, that he can bless others around you for your sake. Why? Because there's a call upon your life. There's a call to bring salvation. There's a call to bring peace. There's a call to bring joy. There's a call to bring love. There's a call to bring deliverance, no matter where you are, because you are called. And because you are called, all those attributes are on the inside of you. And so as we close with you this afternoon during your lunch hour, I just want you to know you are called, that there is a call, that you've already been put in place by God. Once again, this is Dr. Mike, and thank you for joining us on the Nugget today. Listen, have a great and wonderful rest of your afternoon, and we will talk to you soon.